Family should be a source of love and support. But what happens when betrayal comes from the very people who are supposed to protect you? When the ones you trust the most choose someone else over you and then expect you to come back when they have nothing left. Today on AGS Stories, we explore what happens when a mother sacrifices her own child's future for someone else, only to come crawling back years later, broke and abandoned. She gave away his college fund to his stepbrother. Now she wants him to pay for her bills. They say that parents are supposed to be their child's first protector. But what happens when a parent betrays their child in a way that's impossible to forget? This is a story of heartbreak, resilience, and the power of self-worth. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss a second of this one. Imagine working your entire life for something, sacrificing, planning, and dreaming, only to have it stolen from you in the most painful way possible. By your own mother. My name is Ethan, and I'm 27 years old. When I was younger, my mom always told me she was saving for my college fund. It was supposed to be my ticket to a better life. I believed her. I trusted her. But when the time came to start my future, she sat me down, took a deep breath, and dropped a bombshell I never saw coming. I gave the money to Brandon. He needed it more than you. Brandon, my stepbrother. The boy she married into, the one who got every advantage while I had to fight for scraps. He wasn't even struggling. He just wanted to go to a more expensive school. And my mother decided that I could figure it out on my own. She told me I was smart, that I'd find a way, that it was for the best. But best for who? I sat there, stunned, while she went on about how family sacrifices for each other. But apparently, I was the only one expected to make sacrifices. I had no backup plan, no safety net, no support. While Brandon went off to college, fully funded, I was left scrambling. I worked 2 jobs, buried myself in student loans, and barely managed to keep my head above water. I had to fight for every single thing in my life while he got handed the dream that was supposed to be mine. Fast forward years later, I made it despite everything. I have my own place, a stable career, and I don't need anything from her anymore. And now, she's broke. And guess who she's calling, begging for help? So tell me, should I forgive her? Or let her live with the consequences of her choices? I need your advice. Let's dive into the full story. I used to believe my mom had my best interests at heart. I really did. She always told me she was saving for my future, that when the time came, I wouldn't have to worry about anything. I trusted her. Back then, it was just the 2 of us. My dad had never been in the picture, and my mom worked hard to keep a roof over our heads. We weren't rich, but we got by. She made sacrifices, and I admired her for it. Every time I saw her skip buying something for herself, so she could put a little more into my college fund, I felt grateful. She made me believe she was setting me up for success. But then she met Rick. Rick was charming, at least at first. He had this big laugh and a way of making people feel like they mattered. My mom fell for him fast. And when she told me they were getting married, I didn't think much of it. I figured if she was happy, I'd support her. What I didn't realize was that her love for him came with a price. And I was the one who would pay it. Rick had a son, Brandon. Brandon was a year older than me, and from the moment they moved in, it was obvious he was the golden child. He got new clothes while I wore hand-me-downs. He got to pick where we went for family vacations while my opinions didn't matter. If I needed something, I had to wait, but if Brandon asked, it was given to him immediately. I try not to let it get to me. I told myself, she loves me too. She wouldn't betray me, but deep down I felt something shifting, like I was slowly being replaced. Then came the moment of truth. I had worked so hard to get into my dream school. Late nights, early mornings, sacrificing weekends to study while my friends went out and had fun. It all paid off when I got the letter. I got in. I was ecstatic. I ran to tell my mom, expecting her to be just as proud as I was. But the moment I sat down to talk about my tuition, everything changed. She hesitated. I remember the way she looked at me, like she was preparing to break something fragile. Then she said the words that shattered me. I gave the money to Brandon. He needed it more than you. I felt like I couldn't breathe. What? I thought I misheard her. I asked her to repeat it. And she did. She explained it so casually, like she had done nothing wrong. Brandon wanted to go to a more expensive school. His dad couldn't afford it. So she helped out, Helped out? She took everything I had been promised, everything I had built my future around, and handed it over like it was nothing. I tried to reason with her. I told her how hard I worked, how much this meant to me. She just smiled like I was being dramatic. You're smart. You'll figure something out. We're family. You'll understand one day. But I didn't understand. I felt like my whole world had been ripped apart. I had two choices, give up or fight. I chose to fight. I picked up every shift I could find. 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I barely slept, but I put myself through school. I took out loans, lived off instant ramen, and skipped out on anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, Brandon lived in comfort. His tuition? Paid in full. His apartment? Covered. He partied, traveled, and never had to worry about a single thing. And my mom? She never once asked how I was doing. It was like she forgot I existed. But I survived. And not just that, I thrived. Fast forward years later. I finally made it. I have a stable career, my own place, and financial security. I built myself up from nothing, and I didn't need anyone to do it. And now, my mom is broke. Brandon? Gone. He used up all the money, took what he could, and disappeared. My mom never saw it coming. She thought she was securing his future. But in the end, he left her with nothing. And now, she's calling me. Ethan, I made mistakes, but I'm your mother. Can you help me? I stared at the message for a long time. She hadn't spoken to me in years. Hadn't cared if I was struggling, if I had a roof over my head, if I even graduated. But now that she needed something, now she remembered I existed, I can still hear her voice in my head, back when she told me to figure it out because I was smart. But now, suddenly, she needs me. So tell me, should I forgive her or let her live with the consequences of her decisions? Because honestly, I don't know if I have it in me to help her. Wow, I knew this story would hit home for a lot of people, but I didn't expect this kind of reaction. You guys really had some strong opinions on whether I should forgive my mom or let her deal with the consequences of her actions. I read through hundreds of comments. Some of you shared your own experiences with betrayal, while others gave advice on what I should do next. And honestly, I feel torn. Let's check out some of the top responses. At Lena J 92, she didn't care about you when you needed her. Why should you care now? Parents don't get a free pass to treat their kids however they want and then come crawling back when it's convenient. She made her choice. Now she has to live with it. At Mike Crawford, if you help her, do it on your terms. Make sure she understands that she's not entitled to your success just because she gave birth to you. Help her if you want, but don't let her take advantage of you like she did before. At truthseeker_99, forgiveness is powerful, but it doesn't mean letting someone back into your life without accountability. If she wants your help, she needs to earn it first. Let her prove she's really sorry, not just sorry that Brandon left her broke. I won't lie, these comments really made me think. Some of you believe in second chances, while others think she got what she deserved. And honestly, I feel the same way. A part of me wants to be the bigger person. I don't want to become cold and bitter just because of what she did. But at the same time, I can't forget the nights I went hungry, the times I felt abandoned, or the way she brushed off my pain like it didn't matter. And now, she suddenly remembers I exist because she's desperate? It's hard to ignore the feeling that she's only reaching out because she has no other options. If Brandon had stuck around, would she even be calling me right now? I don't think so. So am I being too harsh? Or is this just karma playing out the way it was meant to? I need your thoughts. What would you do? After reading through hundreds of your comments, I realized something. This wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal. It was about how, for years, my mother made me feel like I didn't matter. How she dismissed my pain while giving everything to someone else. And now that she had no one left, she suddenly wanted to talk, but still part of me needed closure. So I decided to meet with her. I wasn't sure what to expect. Would she apologize? Would she try to justify what she did? Would she even acknowledge how much she hurt me? When I walked into the diner where we agreed to meet, I spotted her immediately. She looked different. Older, worn down like life had finally caught up with her. There were dark circles under her eyes, and she fidgeted with her hands like she was nervous. The moment she saw me, her face crumbled. She started crying. Not soft, controlled tears, but full-on sobbing. right there in the middle of the restaurant. I didn't know what to feel. She reached for my hands, but I didn't move. Ethan, she choked out. I was blinded. I thought I was doing the right thing. Please, I need your help. Her voice cracked, and for a split second, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered everything. The way she looked me in the eyes when she told me she gave my college fund away. The way she shrugged off my struggles. The years of silence while I was fighting just to survive. And suddenly I felt cold. I took a deep breath and asked the one question I needed an answer to. If Brandon hadn't abandoned you, would you have ever reached out to me? The second the words left my mouth, she froze. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She hesitated. Then she looked away. And at that moment, I knew. She wasn't here because she regretted hurting me. She was here because she had no one else left. If Brandon was still in the picture, if he hadn't run off and left her broke, would she have even thought about me? No, she wouldn't have. She was only here because she needed something. And that realization hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't crying because she missed me. She wasn't crying because she saw how much she had hurt me. She was crying because she had nowhere else to go. I leaned back in my chair, letting that sink in. She wiped her eyes and tried again. Ethan, I made mistakes, but I'm still your mother. That word, mother, felt foreign coming from her. A mother is supposed to protect her child, not abandon them when they need her the most. A mother is supposed to love unconditionally, not pick favorites and throw one child away when the other is more convenient. I let out a breath and finally spoke. You were my mother once, but the moment you chose him over me, you stopped being that. She flinched like I had hit her. I didn't mean to, but you did. I cut her off, and now you expect me to just forget. She shook her head quickly. No, I don't expect that. I have nothing left, Ethan. I need you. That was it. That was the truth she had been dancing around. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. Not, I wish I had made different choices. Just, I need you. She needed me now. But where was she when I needed her? I stared at her for a long time, then said something I never thought I'd be able to say. I don't owe you anything. Her face crumpled. I raised you, she blurted, desperate now. I nodded, and then you threw me away. Silence. She wiped at her face again, her fingers shaking. I could tell she wanted to say something, but for the first time in her life, she had nothing left to manipulate me with. She had no power over me anymore. And that was when I knew I had a choice to make. I could walk away forever. Let her deal with the consequences of her choices, just like she told me to do all those years ago. Or I could offer her something small, a second chance, but on my terms. So I asked myself, was I strong enough to forgive her? Or was it better to finally close this door for good? And now I need your thoughts. What would you do? After sharing my last update, I wasn't sure what to expect. A part of me wondered if people would say I was being too harsh, if I was letting my past control me instead of taking the high road. But after reading your comments, it became clear I'm not alone in this. So many of you shared your own stories of betrayal, of parents choosing someone else over you, of struggling to decide if forgiveness was even an option. And a lot of you had strong opinions on what I should do next. Here are some of the most liked comments. At Real Talk Tasha, if she truly loved you, she wouldn't have waited years to reach out. She only called you because she had no other choice. That's not love, it's desperation. You owe her nothing. At Jaden_42, help her if you want, but don't let her back in too easily. Make her prove it. Words are cheap, but actions? That's where the truth comes out. If she really wants to fix things, she'll do whatever it takes. Reading these comments made me sit with my own feelings a little longer. I know forgiveness is supposed to bring peace. It's supposed to be this thing that sets you free. But does it really work that way when the person asking for it hasn't changed? She never said, I'm sorry for what I did to you. She never admitted how much she hurt me. She just needed me. And maybe that's the real problem here. I want to believe people can change. That maybe, deep down, she regrets everything. But I also know that if Brandon had stayed in her life, if she wasn't broken alone, I wouldn't even be a thought in her mind. So maybe some of you are right. Maybe I should test her, see if she actually cares about fixing our relationship. And honestly, that might just be what I do. I met with her one last time, It had been weeks since our first meeting at the diner, and I had spent that time thinking, replaying everything over and over in my head. Was there any part of me that still wanted a relationship with her? Could I ever trust her again? Did she even deserve that chance? So when she called, asking to meet again, I agreed. But this time I had a plan. We met at a quiet park, the kind of place we used to go when I was a kid. She sat on the bench, looking small, almost fragile. For a moment, I saw glimpses of the mother I used to know, the one who used to tuck me in at night, who used to hold my hand when I was scared. And maybe that's what made me say what I said next. If you really want to fix things, show me. Her eyes lit up like she thought I was about to forgive everything right then and there. But I wasn't. I wasn't going to hand her money. I wasn't going to invite her back into my life like nothing had happened. Instead, I gave her an option. Let's start small. Calls, meetups. No expectations. If she wanted to be in my life again, she had to earn it. She had to prove that she cared about me, not just what I could do for her. Her face changed. The desperation faded, replaced by something else. Frustration. That's not fair, she muttered. I raised you. You should just help me. And that was the moment I knew. She wasn't here because she regretted hurting me. She was here because she had no one left. For a long time, I thought that realization would break me, that it would confirm everything I feared, that I had never really mattered to her the way I wanted to. But as I looked at her, sitting there expecting me to fix her mistakes, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. I stood up, looked her in the eyes, and told her the truth. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose him over me. I don't owe you anything. She didn't chase after me. She just sat there, watching as I walked away. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was truly at peace. But that's not where the story ends. A few months later, I got a call I never expected. It was Brandon. I hesitated before answering. The last thing I wanted was to hear another excuse, another story about how family should just forgive and forget. But curiosity got the better of me. Hey, Ethan. His voice was different, quieter, almost humble. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. I was stunned. Brandon? Apologizing? I didn't say anything, so he kept going. I was a spoiled brat. I let Mom favor me, and I never questioned it. But I was wrong. I see that now. I sat down, letting his words sink in. He told me that after blowing through the money, he realized how much he had taken for granted. That when he left, he thought he'd be fine on his own, but life had a way of humbling him. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. I just needed you to know that I get it now. And I'm sorry. For the first time in years, I heard genuine regret in his voice. Not excuses, not blame shifting, just honesty. And maybe that's why I did something I never thought I would. I forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because I deserve peace. As for my mom, she didn't change overnight, but something in her shifted. She started reaching out, not asking for money, not demanding things, but just talking. Small conversations, checking in. For once, she was actually trying. And so, I set my boundaries. I didn't let her get too close too fast, but I gave her space to prove herself. And slowly she did. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But we were healing. Now, looking back, I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what someone did. It's not about pretending the pain never happened. It's about choosing to let go of the anger so it doesn't control you anymore. I used to think walking away was the only way to win. But sometimes, winning means allowing people the chance to be better, even if they failed you before. So here I am, not with a perfect family, but with peace. And honestly, that's more than enough for me. Looking back on everything, I realized that this story was never just about money. It was about self-worth and learning to set boundaries. In 2025, where people constantly talk about healing, self-care, and cutting out toxic relationships, this lesson matters more than ever. I spent years believing that I had to earn my mother's love, that if I just worked hard enough, she would see my value. But the truth is, love isn't something you should have to fight for. If someone truly cares about you, they don't just reach out when they need something. They show up consistently, not just in times of desperation. What I learned is that forgiveness is for yourself, not for them. Holding on to anger only weighs you down, But that doesn't mean you have to welcome toxic people back into your life. You can forgive someone and still choose to walk away. You can heal without giving them a second chance to hurt you. But sometimes people do change, and when they show real effort, not just words but actions, just maybe it's worth giving them a chance to rebuild. Not for their sake, but for your own peace. So tell me, did I make the right choice? Should I continue letting my mother slowly earn back my trust, or should I keep my distance? And what about Brandon? Do you think his apology was enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Your insights and advice have helped me through this journey, and I want to know what you think should happen next. And if you love stories like this, stories that make you think, question, and reflect, then hit that subscribe button for more real-life betrayals, life lessons, and shocking Reddit stories. See you in the next one.